All right. So we just uh, we just finished watching episode 8 of season 3 of the Mandalorian.
Yep.
It's the Return is the title of this one,
Yep.
and we're at a time crunch because we caught Colin between a dentist appointment and the showing of which movie?
Return of the King, Lord of the Rings.
Return of the King.
I know, I'm excited.
That's a good
They're,
one.
they're doing. I think there was only 2 days they were gonna show it at this theater. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, man, let's get to it. So first, let's do just 5 minutes of sort of overall feeling. What did you think of it?
Real quick, do we want to introduce ourselves?
I suppose we could. I'm Nate.
And I'm Colin.
And this is Pew Pew time.
Perfect.
Man, I'm impressed by us.
Thank you.
Look at us.
Thank you.
All right. So what are your first impressions of this episode?
Slightly disappointed. I thought there was a lot of buildup, minus episode 6. Episode 7 was really good, and I feel like they were just like showing us things that I was leaning towards, and I feel like what we got was a very lackluster way to end it, and a lot of ambiguity still. So it was definitely a miss on my part. But what about you?
So I'll say I'm not sure I would say I disliked it. It was not what I expected. And I think part of it was because, I mean, the problem is we have this huge fandom of these things, right? People like you and me, and even Bree, and just like the world over, there are all of us out there who are like overthinking this between each episode now. So we have the time to think about it, and we start suspecting characters like the armor, or like Axe Woves, who, for the record, I told Bree I would bring up that she made a joke after the fact that she thinks his name should be Axes with Wolves.
Axes with Wolves.
Yeah.
So his middle name is Axes.
Sure.
With
That's a reference to the movie Dances with Wolves.
Oh, okay. Well, his middle name should be with.
It's a little before your time, maybe.
Could be. I was born in
I had a good
1940,
laugh.
so
It was pretty clever. Right. So anyway, I had all these ideas, and this is the problem with going into anything with too much of an expectation of what you're going to have, what you're going to find.
Yeah.
Is that then when it doesn't meet your expectation, it's really more your fault than their fault for telling a story, whatever. But here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
I did expect a twist of some kind, whether that was Axe Woves is betraying everyone, or the armor maybe is betraying everyone. There was a lot of sort of mystery around some of these things. If nothing else, the title "The Spies," right? It implied that there was someone else, and I thought like they're being really clever. Now, it's still possible that they're being really clever, right? It's still possible that there's some other thing that's like unseen here, I thought of a theory, but we'll get to that around Axe Wolves down the line here. But I told Bree, I said, like, I was just surprised, first of all, that nobody died and that there was no betrayer. Like, those two things. I had a few minutes where I thought Bo Katan was going to die in fighting Moff Gideon and everything. But there were a lot of... It felt like more than the last 2 season finales, they, like, stitched up the end of the episode. And they answered a lot of little questions that we had. So it kind of didn't leave us with as much of a teaser to the next season as I expected, but they've done enough teasing for the Ahsoka series, the Rebels characters and all that. So there's some of that kind of thing happening. But yeah. So I guess I would say I was surprised that I didn't see more of a shocking thing at the end.
Yeah.
But I liked most of what I saw. I can't point one moment and be like, oh, I really hated that, so.
Well, I guess...
At the moment, I just watched it, right? It's fresh, so.
Yeah, I would say...
anything right off the top of my head.
I would say I didn't hate it. Like, there was nothing, like, bad about it per se in terms of, like it was cool visuals. It was cool, like, stuff. Episode 6 of this series was arguably definitely the worst. So it wasn't that bad. I just felt the writing was very mediocre and never had me at the edge of my seat. There was this giant buildup for the whole season, and I felt like no one was going to die, and no one did die, and there was just nothing kind of like getting me to feel something, which is like very much a downer on a finale of a series. So what I've left so far is, to me, season 3 was like a builder for something more, another season. Because it didn't really conclude anything. So,
well, it's funny you say that, because that's sort of the opposite of what my feedback was. Is that I felt like they sort of stitched everything up, right? But here, let's just get into it. Let's start going like thing by thing. The first thing I wrote down was that Axe-Woves hadn't revealed any betrayal yet. He was flying out of the atmosphere or whatever, and he was on the radio with them, and he breaks through the atmosphere, and because of the magnetic field or whatever, he can't contact anyone on the surface anymore, so he's reaching out to the ship as soon as he can, whatever. And again, when he broke free and was headed toward the ships, there was no big battle going on, which is what I expected.
Totally. And real quick on that same him flying into the space, I feel like they took very similar shots and angles of the armor's face too when she was going up in the previous episode. So it felt like
they followed.
Yeah. So
they followed her an awkward amount of time. Yeah, the shots were kind of weird with her flying back up to the fleet, and it had me wondering similarly, if this were, about to all fall apart.
Yeah.
But then the next note I have revolves around the little fight. They're dragging dragging his feet behind him, whatever, and he very quickly, very easily takes out these two guys. It was just two guys, right? It was just two.
Oh, it was 2 or 3. It was 2.
I think it was just 2, but it might have been 3. But they're hauling him down. They're these super commandos or whatever. And he breaks himself loose, and he doesn't have his whistling birds. He doesn't have his blasters. He doesn't have. I guess like we found out in the last episode that they can disarm him by just like taking off the weapons from his armor. I don't know. That was a little odd, but he just like straight up fist fights these guys and gets them basically. And breaks himself free. And one of the things I wrote down was, it takes more than Beskar to make a Mandalorian, right? So like these guys are wearing Beskar, but it didn't really protect them against the real thing, sort of, right? So to speak.
Well, didn't Grogu save him in that battle?
Well, he did after the fact. So
okay.
From there, I can't. I think he wanders a little farther, and the Praetorian Guard guys come out. The three guys with their quasi lightsaber weapons.
Yeah, that's right.
And he takes them pretty easily with a little help from Grogu too. Grogu uses the Force pushing. It was actually, I was going to say funny. I don't know if I think it's really funny or if it was just kind of annoying. Grogu just kind of kept knocking one of them down over and over again. A little bit of force here and just knock him over. But sort of weird how this whole Praetorian Guard thing has been, in my mind, sort of shoehorned in, trying to connect the sequel trilogy, I'm sure. But these guys with their like electricity weapons that they swing around like lightsabers and whips and things, and it just seems overly complicated and unnecessary to me. But that said, like it was cool. Grogu kind of steps in and rescues at the last second there, and starting to see some growth from him, right? Not just the occasional use of the Force, but like he's becoming very comfortable with it. So like that's a little bit of growth there. I think that was interesting.
Yeah.
Then R5-D4 gets called in to like hack his way in, right? They needed to find out where the like headquarters was. There's a moment where Din Djarin, he says to Grogu, like, look, we're gonna have to go do this. Like, are you with me here? Like, just sort of like, I'm sorry, but this isn't gonna end until we take Moff Gideon out. So you gotta come with me and we're gonna do this, and it's this like little by little, this, Grogu's entering an adolescence, a little bit of a, you're gonna have to handle some of these things now, But anyway, I wanted to address something that I brought up last time, which was the Super Commandos, which I'm more and more convinced are just a Moff Gideon program that's named after the original thing that the guys who followed Darth Maul, and later Gar
Death Watch.
Saxon and everything. Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a Death Watch thing, but they were Super Commandos were Mandalorians who like sided with the Empire, and so they were commanded by the Empire and whatever. I don't know. There was a whole Rebels arc about it, but anyway, it was more and more clear that like this was just another program for him. He was just trying to like work out like what's after the Dark Troopers or whatever, you know. So
Yeah,
it's you know, interesting reference, but not quite the deep dive that I thought it was going to be.
yeah.
So what's next? What happened next?
Well, R5 comes to, he flies down with his thrusters to get Din through the tunnel where there's like these red, like, you know,
Oh yeah,
what do you call those? They're doors,
oh,
but they're like
force shields or whatever. Yeah,
yeah, like holographic kind of deals.
Very episode 1, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
talked a little about that.
Yep. And
Which,
oh, go ahead.
well, just before we go too far into it, why are these guys standing in pairs inside there? Bree and I talked about. I thought that those were just suits that when we saw them last time. Oh, they're just suits like standing, you know, sort of at attention. Or if they're dudes and they're just standing there waiting, like 2 by 2 in each thing, you know. It just seems silly to me. Like, why would that be necessary? You know, why can't these guys all stand in one room together?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
but they fight them one by one as R5 kind of opens each thing, and that was a cool like fight scene and timing and everything. I thought that was really neat. I don't think anything crazy happens there, and then they win. They destroy them, I should say.
Yeah, they work their way through. I even said like it feels a little video gamey, you know, the way that worked. The like,
little bit.
All right, this round is over. Let's do the next round. Each round you're a little more tired, but you've got a weapon upgrade and that sort of thing, you know. But I agree. I thought it was pretty cool. Interesting point there. I think it's the first time we've seen anyone make like shields, like physical shields for Mandalorians. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's possible that they existed somewhere in the Clone Wars or in.
I feel like I've seen it before, but that's also because I just saw it this morning in the episode, so hard to know. But yeah, so
but it's interesting.
They basically destroy all of them, and they get into the room where the clones are. And I definitely have a lot of comments here.
Thoughts?
Yeah, well, one question I had was like, are they just so they reveal an up close shot of one of the tanks, and it's a picture of. Or not picture. It's a clone of Moff Gideon, his face.
Yeah. Which was a reveal. Like that was
a big reveal. Yeah.
They walked in and Bree was like, "Are those Moff Gideon?" I was like, "I think they are."
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it doesn't sound like that crazy of an idea, but actually, I wasn't sure that it was going to be Moff Gideon. I just assumed that they were.
So my question is, are all of them Moff Gideon, or are they just like
I think they were.
Yeah. Okay. Because I couldn't tell. They only did a close up of one, but yeah, that's
they were blurry. Yeah, they kept them sort of in the background, but I think they were.
That's interesting.
Egotistical.
A little, yeah. I did feel like that scene. So basically, what happens is they like reveal that close up shot, and then they just destroy the tanks. They like break the glass and everything. I did feel like that was a little too easy. Like,
you think it'll come back?
Yeah, I feel like that's not where the master cloning thing is, because it's like it just felt like very unguarded. There was only like 6 guards leading up to it. Moff knew where they were this whole time and just allowed them to destroy these tanks. Like it just felt a little too easy.
I don't know. It feels like the last thing we saw of him was like leave him to me, whatever. He puts his helmet on, goes marching off. It was like he was trying to track him down or something.
Well, that's what he was looking. That was the green and red dot on the map that he was looking at. That was Grogu and Din. So he knew there.
He wasn't watching them destroy the thing, right?
No,
that happened while he was coming up on them or something.
But he was able to track them to where they were going.
He was tracking them earlier, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, at a certain point, he thought his guys were taking him somewhere. So I don't know.
It just feels odd to me.
Yeah. Well, this whole thing felt. I told Britt, like, it felt really fast. It felt to me, honestly, it felt a little like how I felt about Revenge of the Sith. I just feel like they had so much that they wanted to get in that it just felt like every moment something new is happening. Like nothing feels like it has enough time to sit, you know?
Yeah.
So like this felt to me kind of like, I don't know. They were just trying to get through so much so quickly. This felt like maybe it could have been 2 episodes. I don't know, but yeah. So they destroy all the clones in theory. Moff Gideon is not happy about that, and that would be the only thing that leads me to believe that was really the end of the clones. You know what I mean? Is that
Sure.
it also seems like he'd kept it a secret from the others on the Shadow Council. Did you notice that?
Yeah, he did. He didn't mention it at all.
Yeah, they talked about someone's cloning efforts, and he said like you're the one that's obsessed with cloning, not me, and which leads me to believe this whole thing's been a secret project. It's possible that he's got backups. Who knows? But it even brings up the question: is he the original Moff Gideon? Because when they first talked about him in the first season of this, there was a sort of they were talking about like who is that? It's got to be Moff Gideon. And someone said, "No, Moff Gideon died in the whatever. Like they destroyed him in whatever. You know what I mean? Like some people thought he was dead. It could just be that there were legends around him, but it could be that he did die and that he had another clone. I mean, it might be that he's been playing around with this thing for a while.
Yeah, I mean that was definitely a thought I had. Was like, is that even the real Moff Gideon? Yeah,
right.
That we see.
Is the Moff Gideon we know the original? Yeah,
or even that too. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think that's a good. That would make sense a bit. That would probably make my like not worries, but just like little dissatisfaction more satisfied.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I don't know. I mean, I want to watch it again. It's always easier for me once I've seen it once.
Yeah,
to kind
of course.
Go through. And it's also because we're doing the podcast. I don't enjoy it in the same way I used to, which is just sort of like I get totally drawn. I'm sitting there typing as I go. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to really get a feel for it and get lost in it like I used to. But anyway, so we get a little clip of the remaining Mandalorians who have retreated and regrouped in caves near the surface. And there's a question about like these plants that are growing, right? Because they're like, what did I call them? The Mad Max Mandalorians have been there since the Purge, apparently. And they transplanted all these plants whenever they found them, it sounds like, to make this little garden. And so these are plants that existed before the Purge that like they've continued to live on. And somebody says, I don't know if it's Bo Katan, referencing that they'd never seen these plants flourish outside of the dome, even on Mandalore. So it's kind of cool to see. And there's this sort of like little hint at like there's hope for the future for Mandalore, for the planet, for the people. It was kind of a cool symbol, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. That shot was really pretty. I thought it was, obviously it was very green and lush, and it really resembled like just hope. Because like even I don't. It's hard to know, but like I don't remember even when they were living there if there was much green either. Like it was more industrial, right? It was more like.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, it certainly was sort of like a. I don't know. Satine's like rule. It was, again, I think it was all under the dome, right? Isn't that where it all existed? Because, the history of the Mandalorians is just warfare against themselves. So, they've just sort of like scorched the planet over and over again. But yeah, it was pretty much just like concrete and steel everywhere. It didn't have a very natural look to it. But I also think that maybe they had plants growing here and there. Sort of cultivated and stuff, but I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. But
I want to share my last little thing about was there a second spy, and they kind of didn't make it clear, right? And here's the thing: at the end of this, I said like, well, I guess there wasn't. But the more and more I think about it, that's not necessarily the case. It could just be that whatever the spy is not working for Moff Gideon, but working at a deeper level for Thrawn or somebody like that. And I started thinking about this, and I thought, Axe Woves gets up to the light cruiser and sits down, or sends everybody out, sits down. Maybe the plan was to sacrifice Moff Gideon. Maybe Thrawn's whole plan was to sacrifice Moff Gideon, crash this ship into him, end this whole little thing that Moff Gideon's trying to do, wrapped up in his own ego and all that kind of thing. in order to move forward with a broader plan or something like that. So I thought, like, it's possible it still was Axe Woves. He bailed out at the end. It wasn't even like a suicide run or anything, which I really did at least think that he was going to die. Probably he had to drive the ship in, but it's such a cliche and everything. It didn't bother me that it was like, oh yeah, I can fly away, so I have a jetpack. Yeah, I mean, it was like, I'm glad that, in a sense, that they at least did the logical thing there. But
yeah.
Anyway, so if that gives you any hope, maybe there are still some like weird little undercurrents of betrayal and
yeah, and that's kind of what I am hopeful for in the future, that this was a building block to a bigger story arc that maybe ties into the Ahsoka series and stuff. So I don't want to come off too bummed out, but yeah, that does that would be a really cool theory to pan out. But
yeah, we'll see.
So let's go back to Din and Grogu. They finally get to Moff's lair, essentially where he's been mainly at, and any important dialogue at the beginning other than you could tell his frustration with them destroying the clones. Yeah.
I kind of think I can't remember exactly. Again, so much happened in this, I've already forgotten. We were just watching it like an hour ago, but I kind of think Din just starts shooting pretty much. I mean, there's this he wants to rant and be angry at him, and Din starts shooting at him, so he has to kind of like hide his face for a second with his arm.
I think he ran at him.
Din did?
I think Din ran at him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong moment, but I know that there's a moment where he has to like put his helmet on again because he's getting shot at. But
yeah, that could be the same thing. He might have taken a couple shots and then started running.
Yeah. But one of the things I noticed right away that I did notice last week was that you hear some sounds, some familiar sounds when he's moving his arms around and stuff. He has the same strength enhancement that was in the Dark Troopers. You're sort of like, robot-y sounds and everything. And that comes to be a problem, as this moves forward. But anyway, it bounced around quite a bit. It goes back and forth between, Din Djarin and Moff Gideon, and then it goes to, Bo Katan in the armor fighting through space, and the sort of like, it's actually kind of cool. I compared it to it's like a space battle. I mean, like we've had so many in Star Wars that are so good. I should say we've had a few that are so good, but then you just swap out the jetpacks for the X-wings and the the TIE fighters, and like you just had another little space battle. It's kind of cool. But that said, it bounced back and forth between that, and I remember thinking the armor still looks ridiculous, like using the tongs and the hammer. It just doesn't make sense as weapons. I mean, at least the tongs don't. But the battle was going. It's kind of cool. And as they're fighting, you can see Grogu start to help, right?
Yep.
It was.
Yeah, he's still in. He's trying to help with the his little shell of IG-11.
Yeah. Which again, I've still been uncomfortable with that. Just to be clear, I was never super on board with riding around in the corpse of your friend.
That's what I wish when I die. I want you to ride around in my shell.
Yeah, that's what you want when you die. You want me to ride around in your ribcage.
Yeah,
this is weird.
We can turn. Yeah, let's get back to the story.
So Grogu exhibits some Force stuff, and it's really cool. There's a moment where Bo Katan flies in, right? Space battle's going well, whatever. She comes flying in, and she takes over fighting Moff Gideon so that he can go help Grogu, who's fighting the 3 Praetorian guards, right?
Yep.
Man, I think I had that backwards. Maybe we talked about it just a few minutes ago that he was fighting them outside after fighting
I think the guards came at this point in time, but
so the guards are fighting the baby in the robot suit, and they're doing a pretty they're hurting him pretty bad, clearly. And that's when Din comes busting in, and he's shooting them, and they have this big fight, and it's quite cool. And Grogu's
Because
just
Bo
I thought it was pretty
distracts. Because Bo comes in, distracts,
Yeah.
and fights with the Darksaber Moff, while that gives
Right.
time for Din to go to the baby, and
Right.
and that's where the Force mixture
Yeah.
of the Force used with Din fighting,
right. Blasters and the Force and all that.
Yeah.
It was. I thought it was a pretty cool fight, to be honest.
It was.
And
Yeah.
I would say the stuff that bugs me is when Din shoots and like hits their foot, and it doesn't seem like it bothers them at all. You know what I mean? They're just going like, meh. It's like I don't know.
What is isn't it Beskar? That's what I was
thinking.
wondering.
I don't know. The Praetorian Guards wearing Beskar, but we
I don't know.
we never heard anything about that. My understanding is that they're from outside his little group, so why would they?
Right.
So anyway, they have their fight. The fight switches back to Bo Katan fighting Moff Gideon, right? And she's doing pretty well, but again, him in Beskar is harder to beat, and with that super strength. And there's a moment where I don't know, were you sad when it happened?
Yeah, man, I'm really bummed.
So
you tell it.
Moff Gideon, like, sorry, what?
You can break the news.
Do you want me to tell him?
Yeah.
So Moff Gideon crushes the Darksaber in Bo Katan's hand, right? And of course, this is kind of a bummer because I think it's like hundreds, maybe thousands of years old. But it's this relic, that signified leadership among certain groups of the Mandalorians, and so, it's kind of a bummer. And this is what Bo Katan's been looking for all this time, trying to like gain this symbol that shows that she's a worthy leader of the Mandalorian people. And here it is, broken to pieces now. But Din said something really awesome, the last one, that talks about her song is not yet written. He follows her for, like more than just the sword. He kind of is like, I don't care about that. Like my people, aren't worried about that. It's, character, it's whatever, So
yeah, and
maybe that's the lesson here. Hopefully that's sort of the takeaway, is that she doesn't need the sword to be the leader that her people need. But as a Star Wars geek, like it's always sad to see something like that get destroyed. I want to say this real quick.
Okay.
Worse things have happened to lightsabers and they've come back, right? So I don't think it has to stay broken,
That's true. It could come back. But I will say, like, I'm all for like that type of theming. Like it's not about the weapon. It's about, the person, and stuff. Right. And it's like, that's a cool theme, but it just didn't feel like a big enough moment to like have that emotional, like
it didn't have the weight that would have otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. There was no weight to it. It's just like, it was almost just like a oops, I stepped on it type of thing, and I'm just like, oh, it's broken already.
So yeah, I mean, like that's a good point. And maybe I feel like what you're trying to say is more that these details where something big or important did happen weren't given the feeling, the weight that they needed.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of this felt like it was just a lot of different things that happened like in quick succession, like I said. So yeah, I mean, like I can see that. It felt, it did feel kind of, I don't know, like he just did it to like hurt her feelings a little bit, but then very quickly, Din comes in and saves the day. Like they keep stepping in and saving each other. And what is it? He said something about like the Mandalorians will never follow you without it, or something like that.
Yeah.
And she says like, we're stronger together. And that's when Din blasts from off screen, and they start taking him on. And pretty much right then you see the light cruiser in the background coming down.
That was cool.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I'll say, if there was one thing one like visual that I really loved, it was that like fireball coming down into the planet from behind. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. Although I was hoping for the Mythosaur to destroy the base, but
yeah, well, there's always next year, right, or next season.
Next year, well,
who knows?
We'll come out next year. Yeah, that was still cool though. I like that ship coming in the background and having that weight of like this thing's about to explode and they're all still down here.
Yeah. And then the fireball erupts and like Gideon burns to death very quickly, or We assume.
Okay,
we never did see him.
I want to talk about that scene. So basically, the fire comes from the explosion, and it all we see is like kind of him. It was almost like he walked into it, but he didn't. But like it was just like he just the fire just went, and you stopped. You didn't see him. He just kind of
it engulfed him, and he disappeared.
But like,
it
didn't feel like a death. I'll just say that.
It's possible. Here's the thing: as a writer, as a filmmaker, in a series like this, the doors kind of always secretly
stay open.
For a character to come back, right?
Of course, yeah.
I mean, like we had the return of another beloved character here at the very end in IG-11.
Yeah,
you know, a character who was dead, quote unquote dead. And as we guessed early on, it was going to pay off. You know, it did. It came around in the end. So, who knows with you know, Moff Gideon. And the problem is, if you never kill anyone, then it feels like no deaths have any seriousness or any weight. So I assume that he really is dead. Paz Vizsla, you know, I mean, like that guy fell, and we never went back to his body. So
I think he's dead.
He's probably dead, you know. But like,
but we see him die.
Knows.
Right? We see him like.
I mean, the thing is, I didn't see a heart rate monitor. Right? You know, it's like he fell to his knees and he fell over. Those guys were jolting him full of
wait. So is that like we need that now to confirm deaths in the Star Wars universe? Like someone comes up with a heart rate monitor.
Well, do you remember how? What's his name? The blue-faced bounty hunter died in Boba Fett.
Oh, the Cad Bane.
Yeah. Like at the very end of the episode, he's like, there's this like beeping, like beep, beep, like I don't think he's dead, right? So it's like they love to do this where it's like, oh, he's probably dead, you know, but they leave the door open, so maybe if they want to someday they can bring him back, you know.
Yeah, no, that's smart. I get it, but
they don't throw Sith Lords down into pits anymore. But even when they did that, you know,
they still brought him back.
Yeah, so. I don't want to be too down on this series and, you know, not turning to deaths and stuff.
That's a Star Wars issue as a whole.
Yeah. Especially recently. But all that is to say, we've probably seen the end of Moff Gideon. There's this cool moment at the end after the eruption where the fire goes beyond, you know, and hits our heroes too. And as the dust clears or whatever, they close in, and Grogu is holding back the fire from him and you know, his adopted parents.
He's saving mom and dad.
Yeah. And did it remind you of anything?
It reminded me of the Incredibles. What's her
yeah. Sure, that's not what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Violet Parr.
Yeah, Violet.
Force field ability. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It reminded me of Kanan from the last season of Rebels, which again,
he's holding back the ship.
I feel like if you're watching this show, I don't have to give you a spoiler alert, but you got to watch all that stuff before you listen to this. So this is your last warning. When Kanan holds back the fire, you know, obviously at the like fuel depot or whatever, when that huge explosion is going on, and anyway, so they're saved, and I'm just reading through my notes here. The next thing we see, everybody's gathered by the living waters, right?
Yeah, and we see, I think it's Paz Vizsla's kid get anointed or whatever.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
I imagine he'll become more important as the show goes on. I don't know how many seasons we're going to get of it, but like
Paz Jr.
Kid, if we saw him as you know, teenager, that'd be kind of cool. But is he gonna need a new parent, or
no? He'll be fine.
Is he just like kind of on his own among the Mandalorians now? Is that how it goes? I don't know.
Yeah, they all kind of share the same. I feel like if there's any kid that's loses a parent will be fine, is probably him, because the Mandalorian is very like, especially the part of Mandalorian where he's a part of, where it's very like religious, take care of each other. I think he'll be fine.
He's got a community around him.
Yeah.
So he finally gets baptized in the living waters on Mandalore. You know, probably the first Mandalorian to have had that since, you know, before the Purge, certainly.
That's true.
I guess I don't know, because there have been other Mandalorians there. The Mad Max
Din
have been there.
Din also
obviously
got
that, but that's not
yeah.
that's not his like coming of age moment or whatever.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But
It was his
anyway,
middle-age crisis moment.
yeah, there's a sweet moment. We got to wrap it up. I know you
Oh
got
yeah,
to go on.
yeah.
There's a question. Din Djarin wants Grogu to be called a apprentice now rather than a foundling because he can't say the creed.
The creed.
You know, she says like, well, he can't say the creed, so he can't take it on. So Din says like, all right, well, his parents could do it, right? And she says his parents could give permission, right? And she's like, well, yeah, but they're like, who knows where, like so far away probably. And he says, all right, so let's make it official. I'll adopt him. And that was really cute. But to be honest, I thought that had kind of already happened.
Yeah.
It was not the heartwarming moment that I think it could have been, because all this time they already were that, right? It didn't feel like a big reveal or anything, but it was cute. And adoption in Star Wars and in real life is a very sort of precious, important thing. So it was, I guess, a cool moment and everything. And so she says his name is Din Grogu now. And I was like, I've been calling him Din all this time as though that's his first name. Is Din his last name? Is Din his family name?
I had the same reaction.
So there goes, a whole season of podcasts with me calling him the wrong thing, I guess. But then there's this moment, Grogu looks down into the living waters, and it was like he can sense that something's down there. And then the last shot there, I guess, they see the Mythosaur's eye opens. Is the Mythosaur force sensitive? Is the Mythosaur going to become a Jedi?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Everyone's a Jedi. So I feel like they kind of alluded to Grogu. I'm gonna refuse calling him Din Grogu. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll just call him Grogu.
Okay.
It took some time getting used to that, to be honest.
True. Yeah. So I feel like I have to rewatch this scene, but it felt like the perspective of Grogu looking at the water felt like he didn't have his paw towards it, but it kind of looked like the way it was shot made me think he knew it was under there, and then was feeling it through the Force, and then I don't know if creature like. We see this in the movies too, right? Like in the sequels, Rey like heals creatures and stuff. Like, just because Jedis can feel animals through the Force, does that mean the animals are Force sensitive? Or are they just nature and like we're connecting with it?
Man, we could make again a whole episode about this, but here's my real quick breakdown of what I know and what I suspect. Right, so throughout the video games, there has been like I can't remember what it was called, some sort of like communicate with animals sort of thing that you could do. I think it was in the Knights of the Old Republic games. I can't remember, but like beasts and stuff like that, you could befriend
like
them with the Force. Yeah, that sort of thing. And I mentioned a couple times that it looks like Din has done something like that with creatures, with the blurg and that sort of thing when he was with Queel. But it felt strange, I think, seeing the movies, and I think some people, including Carl, I think, if I remember correctly, thought that it was kind of weird.
Carl confirmed that in the comments.
Like I said. What's that?
I said Carl confirmed that in the comments.
Yeah. Let us know how you felt about the animal healing and that kind of stuff. These things existed in the games. I guess I would just say Qui-Gon once said that midichlorians are part of our cells. Our cells. I mean, people within the Star Wars universe. And we talk, Obi-Wan Kenobi said that the Force exists within all living things, right? So it seems like whether or not they can control it, the Force is in these things, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like just like a naturistic
Grogu
thing.
Can control it, maybe he can reach out, and in Rebels, Ezra Bridger had a particular gift for connecting with animals, and that feels right on par. So so that bringing it back to that scene, like that we see
obviously was kidding, but like we kind of see the mythosaur like wink at us, as in like stay tuned. There's more to my story.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it was a little silly, but again, there's part of me that like I don't want to be mad because it was too happy of an ending. Like that seems like a silly thing to be upset about. But
as someone who loves Revenge of the Sith,
more complicated.
I only want sad endings.
Yeah. If a husband doesn't choke his wife to death, then there's no point even watching it. That's a quote from Colin.
Yeah, that should go on Man Lunch. That was a shameless plug for
Man
Lunch.
Time. Yeah, that's my Twitter handle from years ago. Yeah. Anyway, so last scene is them, almost the last scene. This is like the end of Return of the King, to be honest. All the like fake endings.
Yeah, that's true.
They end up at that the Rangers like bar, the like pilots bar, the World War I, World War II.
That's where we saw Zeb.
Where all the pilots hang out. Yeah, where we had seen Zeb before. Yep. And Captain Teva, Carson Teva, is there. And in the background, you see, I think Trapper is what he calls himself. The Dave Filoni's characters in the background too. Did you see him?
Yeah.
But they just sort of connect for a second, and Din Djarin makes a comment about how he basically wants to be like a freelancer for the New Republic and helping out, and just kind of like, I need work. And with the kid, like I need something that's a little more stable, maybe a little less dangerous or sketchy, So there's sort of an unspoken agreement there, but it was a cool moment. And like I said, I really love the coming together of all these factions, and Captain Teva has become an increasingly cool character to me. But Grogu sees an an IG unit head among the decorations in this bar, and it gives Din an idea.
To stitch them back together.
Yeah. So, when I saw it, I was pretty sure that was going to happen. But
I didn't think it was going to happen in this episode, though.
I kind of wondered if that was. See, that would have been a nice tie-in, like him back on Navarro, like sitting there, like messing around with the wires or something like that. Would have been cool.
Yeah.
But
instead, we see. Yeah, we do go to Navarro and. Basically, Din's there, right? And he's like, "Hey, I got you. I returned someone to you, or whatever." And then they pan the shot, and it's IG-11.
Yeah, IG-11, which is now a marshal of the New Republic, apparently.
Yeah, right.
Actually, I shouldn't say that. He's a marshal. I don't know if they're officially under New Republic rule, because that kind of, I think they still hadn't signed the charter or something. But
yeah.
But then,
that was the end, right?
Well, there's one more quick scene. It was Grief Karga gives him a little cabin to sort of like.
Oh yeah, I thought that was cool. That was nice.
Yeah, and it's very Western. Like it's Din sitting back on his porch with his feet up, as Grogu, like plays with frogs in the foreground. Like, and it's just this like, he deserves a minute of peace, man. So
it's kind of like it's not a direct comparison, but like when the start or the end of Infinity War of the part 1, where Thanos is in his little cabin and you could just hear the peacefulness of the nature.
Except for the fact that he's not like a person who's committed genocide across the.
We don't know that yet. He could.
Yeah,
he still has a past we don't know.
Secret history of Din Djarin. Yeah, but he sits down and there's a moment of like he's earned a rest, right? And that's where we left it.
He's earned a rest.
Kind of said my last comment was, what'd you say?
Said he's earned a rest, just like Thanos.
Just like Thanos. Sit back and whatever, just soak in the appreciation of a whatever. New world or whatever he says.
Half capacity society.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
He looks at that as more of a plus than we do. But anyway, so my last comment was I'm uncomfortable with how smooth that wrapped up, and it sounds like that was sort of your feeling about the whole episode, because it just felt like too easy, too smooth, too little like weight given to serious stuff. So I can understand that.
I think. I'm optimistic that it's all leading towards something bigger. I unfortunately do think at the end of the day it was just like bad writing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, you know, one of the things that Disney has tried to do is improve all of their series and everything by building on each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're trying, I think, now to fix the sequel trilogy a little bit by working on this cloning stuff and explaining how all that started and that kind of thing too. So it's like,
Well,
even if something turns out bad, which I'm not saying that this did, I think it turned out all right.
it did, but we definitely didn't get closure on Dr. Pershing and like what happened to him.
Well, and that's like, I don't need closure on everything. I actually kind of wanted some strings left hanging, you know. So there's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Is he dead? I doubt it. Right?
He's not dead.
I
No.
suppose he's a zombie.
His heart rate was still going.
Yeah, if we didn't see a flat line, then we're not convinced.
But
all right, man.
All right, man.
Well, that's a wrap for season 3 of The Mandalorian, which is kind of unbelievable already. But
yeah, it's crazy. That is insane.
8 episodes. You know, overall, I thought it was a cool season. It'll take time before I know where I feel like it falls in, you know, the rankings. I think I will always probably have soft spot for the first season.
Of course, yeah.
But,
yeah, no, this actually inspired me to go rewatch the whole series again. So I'm gonna go watch season 1, season 2, and then
that'd be fun.
Probably rewatch season 3 again. But
well, we get a week to figure out what our next episode's about. What did we talk about last time we were gonna do?
We should do the Ahsoka trailer breakdown.
Oh yeah,
that'd be a good one.
We really should.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well,
I have to switch my Star Wars hat for my Lord of the Rings hat.
Yeah. Gotta go get your Witch King of Angmar helmet and run off to the movies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I'm Nate.
This is Colin.
And this is Pew Pew Time. We'll see you next time.
Later.
Pew pew.